When I came back from my business trip, my mom smirked and said, "Thanks to your car, our daughter is having the time of her life." I chuckled. She snapped, "What's so funny?" Her smile vanished when I told her, because the car they sold wasn't mine. My name is Christopher Martinez, and I'm about to tell you a story that will make you question everything you think you know about family loyalty. 3 years ago, I made what I thought was the smartest financial decision of my life. Today, I realized it was actually the perfect trap for the people who were supposed to love me most. See, I'm a software engineer in Austin, Texas, 28 years old, pulling in 6 figures, and for the past 3 years, I'd been obsessing over one thing: a midnight blue Porsche 911 Carrera. Not just any car, the one that made my heart race every time I saw it at the dealership. The one I dreamed about since I was 12, playing Need for Speed in my childhood bedroom. But here's the thing about dreams: they require sacrifice. While my friends were blowing their paychecks on weekend trips and designer clothes, I was eating ramen noodles and driving a beat-up Honda Civic with a broken air conditioner. Every dollar I saved was a step closer to that Porsche. Every overtime hour was another payment toward my future. My family thought I was crazy. "Christopher, you're obsessed," my sister Jessica would say, rolling her eyes as she scrolled through Instagram on her brand new iPhone, the 3rd one that year, courtesy of Mom and Dad. "It's just a car, just a car." If I had $1 for every time someone in my family said that, I could have bought 2 Porsches. Jessica Martinez, my 25-year-old sister, has never worked a day in her life for something she truly wanted. Everything has always been handed to her on a silver platter: designer bags for her birthday, European vacations for graduation, a brand new BMW when she turned 21, because she needed reliable transportation. Meanwhile, I was still driving my Civic and being told to be more responsible with money. But I didn't let their comments get to me. I had a plan, and I was sticking to it. 60-hour work weeks, side projects on weekends, freelance gigs during my lunch breaks. My coworkers started calling me the machine because I never said no to overtime. But they didn't understand this wasn't just about a car. This was about proving to myself that I could achieve something extraordinary through pure determination. My parents, Patricia and Robert Martinez, have always had this weird dynamic when it comes to money. Dad works in construction. Mom's a part-time receptionist at a dental office. They're not poor by any means, but they've always lived paycheck to paycheck, spending money the moment it hits their account. No savings, no investment plans, no financial goals beyond making it to the next month. "You get your work ethic from your father," Mom would say whenever she saw me studying programming tutorials late into the night. But I noticed she never said that when I was actually working those extra hours to save money. That's when it became Christopher's obsession, or Christopher's unrealistic dreams. The family dynamics in the Martinez household have always been crystal clear. Jessica is the golden child, the one who can do no wrong, the one whose happiness matters most. I'm the responsible one, the one who has it all figured out, the one who doesn't need as much attention or support because I'm naturally independent. Looking back now, I can see all the warning signs I ignored. The way Mom would sigh dramatically whenever I mentioned my savings progress. The way Dad would change the subject when I talked about test driving different Porsche models. The way Jessica would make little comments about how selfish it was to spend so much money on something just for myself. But I pushed through all of it. 3 years of sacrifice, 3 years of living below my means, 3 years of saying no to vacations and nights out and spontaneous purchases. And finally, I had enough. The day I bought that Porsche was the best day of my life. Midnight blue with tan leather interior, sport package, manual transmission, everything I dreamed of and more. The salesman, a guy named Dave, who'd been watching my progress for months, actually got emotional when I signed the papers. "I've never seen someone work this hard for a car," he said, shaking my hand. "You earned this, Christopher, really earned it." Driving home that day, windows down, feeling the power of that engine responding to every touch of the accelerator, I felt invincible. I'd done it. I'd turned my dream into reality through nothing but hard work and determination. My family's reaction was mixed. "Well, I guess you got what you wanted," Mom said, barely looking up from her phone when I pulled into the driveway. Dad gave it a more thorough inspection, nodding approvingly at the engine, but his praise felt hollow somehow. "Nice car, son. Must have cost a fortune." Jessica, predictably, was the most vocal. "Wow, Christopher, really? This is what you spent 3 years saving for? It's nice, I guess, but it seems like such a waste. Think about all the experiences you could have had with that money instead." Experiences, like her monthly shopping sprees and weekend getaways that Mom and Dad funded without question. But I didn't let their lukewarm reception dampen my spirits. This car represented everything I was capable of achieving. Every morning, walking out to my garage and seeing that Porsche sitting there was a reminder that dreams don't have to stay dreams if you're willing to work for them. For 6 months, that car was my pride and joy. I babied it, maintained it perfectly, kept it garaged and detailed. I joined a local Porsche club, made friends with other enthusiasts, even started planning a cross-country road trip for the summer. Then came the business trip. My company was expanding operations to Seattle, and they needed someone to oversee the technical integration of our systems with a new partner company. It was a huge opportunity, 2 weeks of high-visibility work that could lead to a promotion and a significant raise. The timing was perfect. I could use the extra money to start saving for some performance modifications for the Porsche. 2 weeks in Seattle, I told my family over dinner the night before I left. "I'll be working pretty much non-stop, but it's going to be worth it." "That's wonderful, honey," Mom said, though she seemed distracted. "Will you be driving up there?" "No, flying. The company's covering everything. I'll leave the Porsche in the garage. Keep an eye on it for me." Something flickered across Mom's face, but it was gone so quickly I thought I'd imagined it. "Of course, your car will be perfectly safe." Dad nodded in agreement. "Don't worry about anything here, just focus on your work." Jessica barely looked up from her phone. "Have fun in the rain capital of America." I should have paid more attention to the details of that conversation. The way Mom's voice got slightly higher when she said perfectly safe. The way Dad avoided making eye contact. The way Jessica suddenly became very interested in her social media feed. But I was focused on the opportunity ahead, excited about the project, confident that my family would respect my belongings while I was gone. After all, they knew how much that car meant to me. They'd watched me work for it for 3 years. They understood. Or so I thought. The first week in Seattle went perfectly. The integration was complex but manageable, and I was making excellent progress. My project manager was impressed, my new colleagues were easy to work with, and I was already getting hints about potential permanent opportunities in the Pacific Northwest. That's when the phone calls started. Tuesday of the second week, Jessica called me around lunchtime. She sounded stressed, which was unusual for her. Jessica's biggest worry was usually whether her nail appointment conflicted with her yoga class. "Christopher, I need to ask you something," she said, her voice shaky. "It's kind of an emergency." My heart immediately went to our parents. Is everyone okay? Did something happen to Mom or Dad? No, they're fine. It's financial. I'm in a really tough spot, and I don't know what to do. Financial emergency. Jessica, the girl who'd never had a budget in her life, who thought money management meant making sure her credit card had enough available credit for her next shopping trip. "What kind of financial trouble?" I asked, already dreading the answer. "Remember Sarah from college? She's getting married in Tuscany next month, and she invited me to be in her wedding party. It's a week-long celebration. The bachelorette party is in Paris first, then everyone flies to Italy for the actual wedding. It's like the opportunity of a lifetime." I felt my blood pressure rising. "Jessica, that sounds like a vacation, not an emergency." "But it is an emergency," she insisted. "Sarah specifically asked me to be her maid of honor. I can't say no. This is her dream wedding, and she's been planning it for 2 years. If I don't go, I'll ruin everything for her." "How much money are we talking about?" "Well, the flights are about $3,000, and then there's the hotel in Paris and the villa in Tuscany, and I need new dresses for all the events. And there are spa days planned, and group dinners, and—" "Jessica, how much?" $15,000, but it's not just for me. I'd be representing our whole family at Sarah's wedding. Think about how it would look if I didn't show up. $15,000 for a vacation that she was calling an emergency. "Jessica, I can't just give you $15,000. That's a huge amount of money, and frankly, this isn't an emergency. This is you wanting to go on an expensive trip." Her tone immediately shifted from pleading to defensive. "Of course you'd say that. You've always been selfish with money. Do you know how many times Mom and Dad have helped me out when I needed it? Family is supposed to support each other, Christopher." Family support and funding luxury vacations are two different things. "Whatever. I should have known you'd be like this. I'll figure it out myself." She hung up before I could respond. The conversation bothered me more than it should have. Not because of the money. I'd learned long ago that Jessica's definition of emergency was very different from mine, but because of her attitude. The entitlement, the assumption that I should just hand over $15,000 without question, the immediate shift to calling me selfish when I didn't agree. But I pushed the conversation out of my mind and focused on work. I had 3 more days in Seattle, and I wanted to finish the project perfectly. Wednesday evening, Mom called. "Hi, honey, how's the project going?" "Really well. I should be finished by Friday, maybe Thursday, if everything goes smoothly." "That's wonderful. Listen, I wanted to talk to you about Jessica." Here we go, I thought. Mom, if this is about her Italy trip, I already told her I can't help. $15,000 is not emergency money. I know, but sweetie, you have to understand. This is really important to her. Sarah is her best friend from college, and being excluded from the wedding would devastate Jessica. She's been crying for 2 days. Mom, she's not being excluded. She can go to the wedding. She just can't afford the week-long luxury vacation that goes along with it. But all the other bridesmaids are doing the full experience. Jessica would be the only one who couldn't participate in everything. Can you imagine how embarrassing that would be for her? I rubbed my temples, feeling a headache coming on. Mom, embarrassment is not a financial emergency. If Jessica wants to go on expensive trips, she needs to get a job and save money like everyone else. Christopher, you're being very harsh. Jessica is going through a difficult time right now. She's trying to figure out her life path, and this wedding could be exactly the kind of positive experience she needs. What difficult time? She lives at home rent-free. You and Dad pay for her car insurance and phone bill, and she spends her days shopping and going to yoga classes. That's not fair. Finding your purpose in life is hard work. I almost laughed. Mom, I found my purpose by going to college, learning a skill, and building a career. Jessica finds her purpose at the mall. You don't understand the pressure she's under. All her friends are getting married and starting careers, and she feels left behind. This trip could give her the confidence boost she needs to start making positive changes. The conversation went in circles for another 20 minutes. Mom alternated between defending Jessica's lifestyle and trying to guilt me into funding the trip. She kept mentioning how successful I was, how I didn't really need the money, how family should come first. Think about it, okay? She said before hanging up. Your sister really needs this. Thursday morning, Dad called. This was unusual. Dad almost never called me during work hours, unless someone was in the hospital. Son, I wanted to talk to you about this Italy situation. Dad, I'm not changing my mind. $15,000 for a vacation is not happening. I understand your position, I really do. But here's the thing, your mother is beside herself about this. Jessica has been inconsolable, and it's affecting everyone in the house. We just want peace in the family. Then Jessica needs to accept that she can't afford the trip and move on. What if there was another way? What if we could help Jessica with the money and you could help us? I felt a chill run down my spine. What do you mean? Well, you've got that car sitting in the garage, not being used, and you're doing so well financially, you could probably buy another one without much trouble. What if we borrowed against the car's value to help Jessica? You'd get the money back, of course, once things settle down. Dad, are you suggesting I use my car as collateral for Jessica's vacation loan? It's just a temporary solution, a way to help the family without anyone having to come up with cash they don't have. I was speechless. They wanted me to risk my car, the car I'd worked 3 years to buy, the car that represented everything I'd achieved through discipline and sacrifice, so Jessica could go on a luxury vacation to Italy. Dad, that's insane. I'm not putting my car at risk for a vacation. Christopher, sometimes family requires sacrifices. We've all made sacrifices for each other over the years. What sacrifices have Jessica made? What sacrifices have you and Mom made? That's not the point. The point is we're family, and family takes care of each other. Taking care of each other doesn't mean funding irresponsible spending. If Jessica wants to go to Italy, she can get a job and save money like I did for my car. Your car? Dad's voice trailed off. Son, it's just a machine. Jessica's happiness is more important than a machine. Just a machine. There it was again. Dad, that machine represents 3 years of my life, 3 years of working overtime, eating cheap food, and saying no to everything fun so I could achieve a goal. It's not just a car, it's proof that hard work pays off. I understand that, I really do. But Jessica is your sister. She's family. The car will always be just a thing, but family relationships last forever. The manipulation was so obvious it was almost insulting. Appeal to family loyalty, minimize the importance of my achievement, make me feel guilty for not sacrificing for Jessica's wants. I'm not using my car as collateral for anything, I said firmly. If you want to help Jessica, that's your choice, but leave me and my property out of it. Just think about it, okay? We're not asking you to give up the car permanently. Just help us help your sister when she really needs it. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about those phone calls, about the pressure my family was putting on me to fund Jessica's vacation. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. This was exactly the pattern that had defined my entire childhood. Jessica wants something, Jessica can't afford it. Everyone in the family needs to sacrifice to make Jessica happy. Meanwhile, when I wanted something, anything, I was told to work for it myself. When I wanted a new bike as a kid, I had to mow lawns all summer. When Jessica wanted a new bike, Mom and Dad bought it for her birthday. When I wanted to go on a school trip to Washington, D.C., I had to fundraise and do extra chores for months. When Jessica wanted to go to Europe with her class, Mom and Dad took out a loan to cover it. When I wanted a car in high school, I worked at a grocery store for 2 years to save up for a used Honda. When Jessica turned 16, she got a brand new Volkswagen Beetle with a bow on top. The pattern was always the same. Christopher works for what he wants. Jessica gets what she wants. And now they wanted me to risk the thing I'd worked hardest for, my dream car, so Jessica could continue the pattern into adulthood. Friday afternoon, I finished the Seattle project ahead of schedule. The client was thrilled, my boss was impressed, and I was already getting emails about potential follow-up contracts. It should have been a perfect end to a successful trip. Instead, I was dreading going home. I knew the pressure about Jessica's trip would continue. I knew Mom would have new arguments about family loyalty and sibling support. I knew Dad would keep suggesting creative solutions that somehow always involved me sacrificing something for Jessica's benefit. The flight home felt longer than usual. I kept checking my phone, half expecting another guilt trip call from my family. But my phone stayed quiet, which should have been a relief. Instead, it made me nervous. When the plane landed in Austin, I turned off airplane mode and waited for my messages to load. Nothing from my family, which was unusual. Normally, Mom would have called twice to make sure my flight was on time and to ask if I needed a ride home from the airport. The Uber ride to my house took 30 minutes through Friday evening traffic. I spent the entire time staring out the window, thinking about how to handle the ongoing Jessica situation. I needed to set clear boundaries, make it obvious that I wasn't going to fund her lifestyle, and stick to my decision no matter how much guilt tripping came my way. I was so focused on planning that conversation that I almost didn't notice when we pulled into my driveway. The garage door was closed, which was normal. My house looked exactly the same as when I'd left 2 weeks ago. Everything seemed perfectly fine. I paid the Uber driver, grabbed my luggage, and walked to the front door. As I fumbled for my keys, I heard voices coming from inside the house. Mom, Dad, and Jessica were all there, which was unusual. They rarely came over when I was out of town. "Surprise!" Mom called out as I opened the door. "Welcome home." The three of them were sitting in my living room, drinks in hand, looking like they'd been there for a while. Jessica was scrolling through something on her phone with a huge smile on her face. Dad was reading a newspaper. Mom was practically bouncing in her seat with excitement. "What's going on?" I asked, setting down my luggage. "This is unexpected." "We wanted to be here when you got back," Mom said. "We have some news to share." Something about her tone made my stomach clench. "What kind of news?" Jessica looked up from her phone, grinning. "The best news. I'm going to Italy." I felt the blood drain from my face. "How? What happened?" "Well," Mom said, her voice taking on that artificially sweet tone she used when she knew she was about to say something I wouldn't like. "We found a solution to the money problem." "What solution?" Mom and Dad exchanged a look. Jessica went back to her phone, apparently too excited to pay attention to the details. "We sold your car," Dad said simply. The words hit me like a physical blow. For a moment, I couldn't process what he'd said. "You what?" "We sold the Porsche," Mom repeated, as if saying it again would make it better. "We got a great price for it, $45,000, more than enough to cover Jessica's trip." I stared at them, waiting for the punchline, waiting for them to laugh and say they were joking. But they just sat there, looking pleased with themselves. "You sold my car," I said slowly. "My car, the car I worked 3 years to buy. You sold it while I was gone." "Now, Christopher, before you get upset," Mom started. "Before I get upset?" My voice was rising despite my efforts to stay calm. "You sold my property without my permission, and you think I might get upset?" "It's not like that," Dad said quickly. "We didn't sell your property. We sold our property." "What are you talking about?" "The car was parked in our garage," Mom explained, as if this made perfect sense. "And since you live in our old house that we signed over to you, we felt like the car was fair game for family needs." I blinked at her, trying to understand the logic. "You think because my car was parked in my garage, that somehow made it yours to sell?" "We thought you'd understand," Jessica said, finally looking up from her phone. "I mean, you're doing really well financially. You can buy another car, but this trip is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for me." "So you stole my car?" "We didn't steal anything," Mom snapped. "We made a family decision to help Jessica in her time of need. And frankly, your attitude right now is very disappointing. This is your sister we're talking about. Family should come first." I stood there in my living room looking at the 3 people who were supposed to love and support me, trying to understand how they could have done this, how they could have taken the thing that meant most to me and sold it like it was a piece of furniture they didn't need anymore. "Where's my car right now?" I asked. "The buyer picked it up this morning," Dad said. "Nice young man, very excited about it. Said he'd been looking for that exact model for months." "You sold my car this morning?" "Yes, and Jessica's flight leaves tomorrow evening. Perfect timing." Mom beamed at me like she'd just announced she'd won the lottery. "Thanks to your car, our daughter is having the time of her life." That's when I started laughing. It wasn't a happy laugh. It wasn't an amused laugh. It was the kind of laugh that happens when reality becomes so absurd that your brain can't process it any other way. "What's so funny?" Mom demanded, her smile faltering. I looked at the three of them, my parents, who'd just casually announced they'd stolen and sold my most prized possession, and my sister, who was already planning her Italian adventure with my money. And I realized something that should have been obvious years ago. They had no idea who they were dealing with. "What's so funny," I said, my laughter dying away, "is that you think you sold my car." The room went quiet. Jessica looked up from her phone. Dad put down his newspaper. Mom's face went pale. "Because the car you sold," I continued, pulling out my phone, "wasn't registered to Christopher Martinez, the individual. It was registered to CM Tech Solutions, LLC, my consulting company, the company that technically owns all my major assets for tax purposes, the company that reports stolen vehicles to both the police and the FBI when they involve interstate commerce." I watched the color drain from all three of their faces as the implications hit them. "You didn't sell my personal car," I said calmly. "You sold a company vehicle without authorization. That's not a family dispute about money. That's federal grand theft auto." The silence in my living room was deafening. I could practically hear the gears turning in their heads as they tried to process what I'd just told them. Jessica's phone slipped from her hands and clattered onto the coffee table. Dad's newspaper crumpled in his grip. Mom's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. What do you mean, company vehicle?" Mom stammered. I pulled out my phone with deliberate slowness, making sure they could see exactly what I was doing. "I mean that 3 years ago, when I bought that Porsche, my accountant advised me to purchase it through my LLC for tax benefits, better depreciation schedules, business use deductions, liability protection, smart financial planning." I scrolled through my photos until I found what I was looking for. A picture of the registration documents clearly showing CM Tech Solutions, LLC, as the registered owner. "So when you sold that car," I continued, holding up the phone so they could see the screen, "you didn't sell Christopher Martinez's personal vehicle. You sold company property, stolen company property." Jessica's face had gone completely white. But we didn't know. We thought it was just your car." "Ignorance isn't a defense in federal court, Jessica. When someone steals a vehicle and transports it across state lines, which happens automatically when you sell through most dealerships these days, it becomes a federal crime. The FBI takes that pretty seriously." Dad cleared his throat, trying to regain some composure. "Now hold on, son. This is still family business. We can work this out without involving any authorities." "Can we?" I asked, settling into the armchair across from them. "Because from where I'm sitting, my family just committed grand theft auto, sold stolen property, and used the proceeds to fund a luxury vacation. That's not family business. That's organized crime." Mom shot to her feet, her face flushing red. "Christopher Martinez, you stop this right now. We are your family. We raised you, we loved you, we sacrificed for you. You cannot seriously be threatening to have us arrested over a car." "Over a car?" I repeated, my voice dangerously quiet. "Mom, this isn't about a car. This is about the fact that you think so little of me, so little of my work, so little of everything I've accomplished, that you'd steal from me without a second thought." "We didn't steal from you," she insisted. "We made a family decision to help Jessica. That's what families do." "No, Mom, that's what you do. That's what you've always done. Jessica wants something, so everyone else has to sacrifice to make it happen. but this time you went too far." I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the empty space in my driveway where my car should have been, the space where I'd planned to park my Porsche for years to come, the space that now just looked like a concrete reminder of how naive I'd been to trust them. "Here's what's going to happen," I said, turning back to face them. "You have exactly 72 hours to return every penny from that sale. All $45,000, plus interest and fees for the inconvenience." "45,000, Jessica squeaked, "but I only needed 15. I raised an eyebrow. "Oh, so you knew about the extra 30,000. Interesting. I was wondering where that went." The look of panic that crossed all three of their faces told me everything I needed to know. They'd planned this. Jessica's emergency wasn't an emergency at all. It was a coordinated scheme to get money out of me, and they'd taken more than they'd even told her about. "The other 30,000 is already in our retirement account," Dad said quietly. We thought since you're doing so well financially, and since we've supported you over the years." "Supported me?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Dad, I've been financially independent since I was 22. The only support you've given me lately is letting me store my car in my own garage at my own house." "This house used to be ours," Mom said defensively. "This house was part of your bankruptcy settlement 4 years ago. You signed it over to me because you couldn't afford the mortgage payments, remember? I took over $150,000 in debt to save your credit rating. That wasn't support. That was me supporting you." The truth was finally coming out, and I could see them scrambling to find new angles, new justifications for what they'd done. "Look," Dad said, "we can work out a payment plan. We'll pay you back over time." "No payment plan, 72 hours, full amount." "That's impossible," Mom cried. "We don't have that kind of money." "Then you shouldn't have spent it." I pulled out my phone again. "My lawyer is David Chen at Chen, Rodriguez and Associates. He specializes in corporate theft and fraud. Should I call him now, or do you want to try to fix this yourselves first?" Jessica started crying. "Christopher, please. I haven't even left for Italy yet. I can cancel the trip. I can give you back the 15,000. "Jessica, canceling your trip doesn't solve the problem. The car is gone. Some innocent buyer now owns stolen property. The money is scattered across your vacation fund and Mom and Dad's retirement account. This isn't something you can just undo by saying sorry." "So what do you want from us?" Dad asked. "I want my property returned or the full value compensated. I want acknowledgement that what you did was theft, and I want guarantees that nothing like this will ever happen again." "Fine," Mom said quickly. "We acknowledge that we made a mistake. We'll find a way to get you the money. Just don't involve lawyers or police." I studied her face, looking for any sign of genuine remorse. All I saw was fear of consequences and annoyance at being caught. "Here's the thing, Mom. I don't think you understand the gravity of what you've done. So let me paint you a picture of what happens next if you don't make this right." I sat back down, making myself comfortable. First, I file a police report for grand theft auto. The police investigate and discover that the car was sold through Rodriguez Auto Sales downtown. The sale documents show Dad's signature and Jessica as the beneficiary of the funds. Their faces were getting paler by the second. Then, because the car was transported across state lines as part of the sale process, the FBI gets involved. They freeze your bank accounts while they investigate money laundering charges. Your retirement account, Jessica's checking account, Mom's savings, all frozen. Jessica was crying harder now, but I wasn't finished. The FBI investigation reveals that you've been filing taxes as a low-income family, while simultaneously hiding assets and making large cash transactions. That triggers an IRS audit. They go through every financial transaction you've made for the past 7 years. Dad's hands were shaking. Christopher. The IRS discovers that Dad's been doing cash jobs under the table without reporting the income. Mom's been claiming single-person exemptions while filing jointly. Jessica's been receiving unreported gifts that should have been claimed as income. I leaned forward. By the time all the investigations are complete, you're not just looking at theft charges. You're looking at tax evasion, money laundering, fraud, and probably a dozen other financial crimes I haven't thought of yet. The room was completely silent except for Jessica's sniffling. That's if you don't make this right in the next 72 hours, I concluded. If you do make it right, this stays between us. Family business, like you said. Mom sank back onto the couch. We don't have $45,000, Christopher. Even if we liquidated everything, we might be able to come up with $30,000. Then you have a problem. What if... Jessica wiped her eyes. What if I don't go to Italy? What if I get a job and pay you back over time? Jessica, you're 25 years old. You've never held a job for more than 3 months. At minimum wage, working full-time, it would take you 2 years to earn $15,000, and that's before taxes and living expenses. You couldn't pay me back in a decade. So what are you saying? Dad asked. That there's no way out of this? I'm saying you should have thought about that before you stole my car. I stood up again. 72 hours. I want all $45,000 returned to my business account, plus $5,000 in fees and interest. If that money isn't there by Monday at 5 p.m., I make the phone calls. $50,000, Mom gasped. Christopher, please, be reasonable. I am being reasonable. I'm giving you a chance to fix this privately instead of involving law enforcement immediately. Most victims of grand theft auto don't get that option. I walked toward the door, then paused. Oh, and just so we're clear, I've already contacted my insurance company and the DMV to report the vehicle as stolen. The new owner is going to have a very unpleasant surprise when they try to register it and discover it was sold without proper authorization. The look of horror on their faces was almost satisfying. Almost. You mean that innocent buyer is going to suffer because of what we did? Jessica asked. That innocent buyer is going to lose the car and the money they paid for it, yes. They'll have to pursue damages against Rodriguez Auto Sales, who will then pursue damages against you. So you might want to add their potential lawsuit to your list of problems to solve in the next 72 hours. I opened the front door. I suggest you start making phone calls, family emergency loans, home equity lines of credit, whatever it takes. Because come Monday evening, this either gets resolved privately or it becomes very, very public. After they left, I sat in my empty living room and tried to process what had just happened. 6 hours ago, I'd been celebrating a successful business trip, looking forward to seeing my car again, maybe planning a weekend drive through the hill country. Now I was essentially holding my own family hostage over grand theft auto. The rational part of my brain wondered if I was overreacting. $50,000 was a lot of money even for me. My family was clearly panicked and remorseful. Maybe I should consider a payment plan, give them a way to make this right without destroying their financial lives. But then I thought about Mom's smirk when she'd told me about selling my car, the casual way she'd dismissed 3 years of my work as unimportant. The fact that they'd planned this while I was gone, executed it while I was traveling, and then ambushed me with it the moment I walked through my door. This wasn't a momentary lapse in judgment. This was calculated theft, justified by a lifetime of treating me like a walking ATM for Jessica's wants. My phone buzzed with a text message from Jessica. "Please don't do this. I'm begging you." I stared at the message for a long time before responding. You had a choice. You could have gotten a job and saved money for Italy like any responsible adult. Instead, you chose to steal from me. Actions have consequences. She responded immediately. "I'll do anything to make this right, please." You have 72 hours. Over the next 3 days, I watched my family's panic escalate through a series of increasingly desperate phone calls and text messages. Saturday morning, Dad called, "Son, we've been to the bank. We can get a home equity loan for $30,000, but it'll take 2 weeks to process. You have until Monday evening." Saturday afternoon, Mom called, "Christopher, we talked to Rodriguez Auto Sales. They said they can try to contact the buyer about returning the car, but they can't guarantee anything. That's your problem to solve, not mine." Saturday evening, Jessica called, sobbing. "I found a buyer for my jewelry and designer bags. I can get maybe $3,000. Please, can't that count for something?" 3,000 out of 50,000. You do the math. Sunday morning brought a family conference call with all 3 of them. "Christopher, we've liquidated everything we can. We can get you $42,000 by Monday afternoon. Can you accept that and call it even?" 42,000 plus the 5,000 in fees and interest. 50,000 total. That was the deal. "Where are we supposed to get the other 8,000? Mom demanded. "Mom, you've had your entire adult life to build an emergency fund. This is exactly the kind of situation emergency funds are for." Sunday afternoon, Dad called with a different strategy. "What if we involve the whole extended family? Uncle Mike has some savings. Your cousin Sarah might be able to help." "Dad, do you really want to explain to Uncle Mike and cousin Sarah that you need money because you stole my car?" Sunday evening was quiet. No calls, no texts, no desperate negotiations. I wondered if they'd given up, if they were planning to call my bluff, if they thought I wouldn't actually follow through on my threats. They were about to find out how wrong they were. Monday morning, I called David Chen. "David, it's Christopher Martinez. I need to discuss a theft case involving company property." "What kind of theft?" "Family members stole a company vehicle and sold it without authorization. I gave them 72 hours to make restitution. The deadline is today at 5 p.m. "How much are we talking about?" $50,000 in vehicle value plus fees. They say they can come up with $42,000. David was quiet for a moment. "Christopher, are you sure you want to pursue criminal charges against family members over $8,000? "David, this isn't about $8,000. This is about the fact that they think they can steal from me with impunity because we share DNA. If I let this slide, what's next? They forge my signature on a loan? They sell my house while I'm on vacation? I understand your position. What do you want me to do?" Draft the police report. Have it ready to file at 5:01 p.m. if the full amount isn't in my account. Will do. And Christopher, document everything, every conversation, every text message, every email. If this goes to court, you'll need a complete record. At 3 p.m., my bank account showed a deposit of $42,000. At 3:30, Jessica called. The money's there. We did everything we could. Please don't destroy our family over $8,000. Jessica, the deal was $50,000. You're $8,000 short. We don't have $8,000 more. We've sold everything, borrowed from everyone, maxed out every credit line we have. There's nothing left. I looked at the clock. 3:32 p.m., 4.5 hours until my deadline. Then you better get creative. At 4:15, Mom called. Christopher, we found the $8,000. Uncle Mike is wiring it now, but the transfer won't complete until tomorrow morning. Can you give us until tomorrow? The deal was Monday at 5 p.m. Please, the money is coming. It's just a timing issue with the bank transfer. I thought about it. They'd come up with the full amount. The delay was genuinely about bank processing times, not unwillingness to pay. If Uncle Mike can provide documentation that the transfer was initiated before 5 p.m. today, I'll accept payment completion tomorrow morning. Thank you. Oh, thank you, Christopher. At 4:47 p.m., I received an email from Uncle Mike with a screenshot of the wire transfer confirmation. $50,000 sent to my business account with a timestamp of 4:45 p.m. At 9:23 a.m. Tuesday morning, my account showed the final deposit. $50,000, every penny they'd stolen, plus fees and interest. But as I stared at my bank balance, I realized something important. The money wasn't the point anymore. The point was that they'd learned a lesson they should have learned decades ago. Actions have consequences. Family doesn't mean immunity from accountability. Stealing is stealing, regardless of who does it or why. My phone rang. It was Jessica. Christopher, the money went through. We did it. We paid you back everything. I see that. So we're good, right? This is over? I thought about her question. Was it over? Had justice been served? Had the lesson been learned? Jessica, let me ask you something. Do you understand why I was so angry about this? Because we took your car without asking. Try again. Because it was expensive. Jessica, I was angry because you and Mom and Dad looked at 3 years of my life, 3 years of sacrifice, discipline, and hard work, and decided it was worth less than your vacation. You took the thing that represented everything I'd accomplished and sold it, like it was a piece of junk you found in the garage. She was quiet. Do you understand that? I pressed. I think so. This was never about the car, Jessica. This was about respect. It was about recognizing that other people's achievements and sacrifices have value. It was about learning that just because you want something doesn't mean everyone else has to give up something to get it for you. I understand now, she said quietly. I'm sorry, Christopher. I'm really, truly sorry. I hope you are, because this is the last time I bail any of you out of a financial mess. The last time I cover for poor decisions or irresponsible spending. You're all adults, and it's time you started acting like it. What does that mean? It means no more loans, no more emergencies that everyone else has to solve, no more assuming that my success means I owe you anything. If you want something, you work for it and save for it, just like everyone else in the world. And if we don't, then you don't get it. Simple as that. I hung up and sat back in my chair, looking around my quiet house. For the first time in years, I felt truly free. Free from the obligation to fund other people's dreams. Free from the guilt of saying no to family requests. Free from the expectation that my achievements belonged to everyone. The money in my account wasn't just restitution for theft, it was the price of my independence. My phone buzzed with a text from Mom. "We learned our lesson. This will never happen again." I stared at the message for a long time before responding. Good, because next time there won't be a 72-hour grace period. That afternoon, I drove to the Porsche dealership to start shopping for a replacement car. This time, I made sure to tell the salesman exactly how to structure the purchase for maximum legal protection. "You know," Dave said as we walked through the lot, "I've never had someone buy a car with such detailed ownership documentation requirements." Dave, let's just say I've learned some important lessons about trusting family with expensive property. As I test drove a midnight blue 911 Turbo, an upgrade from my original Carrera, I realized something that should have been obvious from the beginning. The people who truly love and support you don't steal from you. They don't minimize your achievements. They don't treat your sacrifices as their entitlements. Family isn't defined by blood. It's defined by respect, loyalty, and genuine care for each other's well-being. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do for someone is teach them that their actions have consequences, even if they happen to share your last name.